Welcome to Herf Zone Live. I'm here every Tuesday to bring you the best content weekly. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, search for Team Shirtless Mike, and follow on Facebook at Shirtless Mike. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Shirtless Mike 2020. See what goes on in my life, and hopefully I can see what goes on in yours. Herf Zone Live is expanding. Get your product in front of hundreds of viewers every single week. Let me advertise your cigar or product to my audience. DM me, let's exchange information and get you a part of the Team Shirtless Mike team. What is going on, everybody out there? I hope you guys have been having a wonderful week so far. It's only Tuesday, but it's the best part of the week because it's Herf Zone Live. It's always the best part of my week and all that. So I'm going to give people some time to come on. Make sure you leave comments and say what's up to me and everything. I'll put your comment up on the screen. If you're in Florida, we got a storm coming. So they're saying it's a hurricane. Some saying it's a tropical storm. I really have to look at the weather, though. But either way, I hope everybody out there is getting prepared, getting ready to be safe for the storm and all that good stuff. We just there's certain parts of the state last time that they had a hurricane coming, and some people had damage. It was on the west coast of Florida. So I do wish everybody good luck, and I pray that everybody stays safe during this next round of storm. I guess it's Hurricane Nicole or Tropical Storm Nicole is the name of the storm. So just wish everybody the best, from me to you and all that good stuff. So, well, we have a great show lined up tonight. We have Pete Johnson. He is from Tatuaje Cigars, the owner of Tatuaje Cigars. He's been on all kinds of other podcasts, so we're just gonna keep it real lighthearted. We're not gonna get the whole life story. We're just gonna have a good time, get updates on what's been going on in his life and everything. So, without further ado, from the Hustler Universe Podcast Network Green Room, where you'll find the Cigar Hustlers podcast and the Chet and Palmer Shit Show, welcome to Herf Zone Live, Pete Johnson. What's up, brother?
I love the intro. What's happening, man? How you been?
Doing good, man. Yeah, I just wing it, bro. I just wing it. That's all. So
no, that's good. It's easier that way. Yeah. So the tropical storm. So I have a good friend named Ian, which that was really fucked up because Ian fucked up the west side of Florida, and then my friend Ian is my best friend Chris. His wife is named Nicole. So. Back to back, I have two friends, close friends, that have names after hurricanes. But this is supposed to be a subtropical storm. I don't know what the fuck that means. But what's a subtropical storm?
I don't know. Maybe I
know a tropical storm, and I know hurricane, but I've never heard of a subtropical storm. So
it's probably
kind of new.
A slightly stronger tropical storm, but
yeah, I'll be honest. I've been getting text messages all day. Whether or not, because I have a flight tomorrow night to Las Vegas for the Big Smoke. And everybody's like, so if you don't make your flight, am I doing this by myself? I'm like, I'll get there. No matter what, I'll get there. But I don't know when I'll get there. But easier than that, my brother's going to be there, so he'll take care of if I don't get there.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You got to keep a Johnson in there and make sure everything runs smooth and all that.
It's even better when you say that. You got to keep a
Johnson in there.
You got to keep a Johnson in there.
Shouts out to Casey.
Yeah.
So, how's the weather been down in Miami? Are you guys getting a lot of, we're getting a lot of wind over here in Brevard, a couple hours north.
Yeah, we're getting the wind also. We've gotten some weird sporadic rainstorms. It seems like the clouds have been following us all day. But it's mostly this crazy wind that just whips up real quick and goes nuts for like a half hour and then disappears.
Yeah.
Right now it's still, but that's right now.
Yeah, there's a little bit of wind. I put the garage door down. If you see, you'll probably see some of these posters moving around in the background throughout it, but the wind's dying down. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate you for coming on the show tonight. And we're gonna see what's new, what's been going on in your world. So I kind of I know I officially met you in
Great
2020
Smoke.
before COVID and all that started. I was with my boy Kevin Pero, who's a
Yeah.
tat whore.
We were at the Great Smoke, weren't we?
Yeah, the Great Smoke
Yeah.
at the Red Meat Lovers Club dinner, with the Tatuaje Anarchy Chaos.
That was like right before
Right
the
before
pandemic.
COVID. And then after that, and then it's like, okay, Pete Johnson knows who I am. And then during COVID, there was a point where, I was on one virtual Herf, you were on another, and then you clicked over. It was like, hey, shirtless Mike, we're having a bet to see if you're wearing a shirt or not.
I
and
did.
then,
The amount of podcasts, not podcasts, but Herfs during the pandemic that I was on. I mean, there was one night I was on 3 or 4 until like maybe 4 in the morning because I would connect to different time zones. Like
yeah.
eventually I ended up on a Hawaii Herf like in the middle of the night. So I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I still love doing these. I still love getting on and just shooting the shit with people. So thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem.
I always say cigar smokers are kind of like, they're kind of lonely people, and they really look for conversation. So it's nice to have a good conversation.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Now, during that time, and then we'll get into some more stuff. But during that time, you actually did it was like a 24-hour Herf. I can't remember if you were the one that, or it was just you and a bunch of other people. It was like a
We
long all
did
day thing.
well. We did a 15-hour or 14
15.
hour. Yeah, it was long, but then I think it was Jeremiah Marifel and Fuente and everybody. They did like a 24-hour one where they kept on having different people show up for 24 hours.
Okay, so I
That
was
was
just getting those
crazy.
confused then.
Yeah, ours was a completely just a Tatuaje
Yeah, it was just a bunch
educational
of people.
program. I smoked like 15 cigars during that Herf. Drank way too much. Got emotional towards the end, talking about like my heroes in the industry. But yeah, dude, there was a moment that I was like, okay, it's time for me to go to bed. I was
Yeah,
done.
most definitely. Now, who are some of your heroes in the industry?
Well, I mean, I got a guy like Pepin Garcia that I didn't know when he came into the country, which was in 2002. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't meet him until 2003, and that was like, by that time I was already in the industry for 10 years. So I had never heard of this guy. Pepin was never what we like to call, what I like to call, Havana famous.
Yeah,
Pepin lived in the middle of the island in Cuba. No one, if you knew about some guy in the middle of the island, he was the guy. But I knew about the guys in Havana mostly because those are the guys that were most dominant and prominent to people going down there and visiting. So when I met Pepin, I was like, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know his history. Of course, when we had a brief conversation, I realized, oh shit, this guy knows a lot about everything. And I went home that night after he rolled me a few cigars, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to start doing a cigar with this guy because this is like the first guy I've ever met that I wanted to have, my name on a cigar that was put together by someone that I trusted with the profile that I wanted. Because I was looking for a very distinct profile, which was old Cuba.
yeah,
And it was one of those things that I was like, okay, this is the first guy that actually like was willing to sit down, put tobacco together, and give me a cigar based on what he learned from my opinion.
yeah,
And it worked. It took a long time, obviously. I mean, shit, we didn't really become popular for a few years.
yeah,
And 2023 is our 20th anniversary. What a lot of people don't know about Tatuaje is Tatuaje was the first cigar that was ever in production, even before Pepin and the family had their own cigar.
yeah,
So Tatuaje came first, and then Don Pepin Blue was next, and then Vegas Cubanas and El Rey de los Habanos, and then eventually Cabai Juan. And in the mix, Pepin started working with other people, making other cigars, but Tatuaje was the first production cigar he ever made in the United States. So I kind of like right place at the right time,
yeah,
I thought I'm probably the luckier guy in the mix because not only do I have great cigars made by him, but I also married his daughter. So like I got the best of both worlds. Happy life, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Man, like for me, I couldn't be happier with working with that family for as many years as we've been working together. I mean, we both celebrate 20 years next spring, so we're very excited.
Absolutely. Now, I don't think I've ever heard the story about how you met your wife Janny Garcia, and like I like to hear couples stories.
Well, the reality is that I met her dad first. I met her dad. Her dad came to Los Angeles to basically roll cigars for me, so I could test some samples that he was willing to make me. And I didn't meet as soon as I kind of like left that evening, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to make a cigar with this family that I didn't know. Like I really put a lot of blind trust in there because I had no idea who they were. I just knew I wanted to work with this guy because we had like this connection instantly because we both, I mean, obviously I'm a geek for tobacco. So I loved what he was putting together, and he embraced the fact that I loved old Cuban cigars, and that's what he knew best, right? So I didn't meet his whole family until a month later when I went down to Miami. Well, I came down to Miami to kind of watch my first production being put together and to go over all the packaging details. And I walked in, and I remember Yanni actually sorting tobacco for the rollers. So like it's truly a family business. It started as a family business. Yanni and her mom were actually sorting tobacco for the rollers. Yanni was also putting bands on cigars. Jaime was actually kind of overseeing quality control and production and making sure that the blends were correct along with Pepin. Pepin was rolling. Jaime's wife, my sister-in-law, was rolling. She doesn't roll anymore, but she was one of the best rollers. We still have one of the rollers that worked with us back in 2003. She's still with us here in Miami. She rolls cigars every day for us, and she sits at the front of the room because she's like the longest sitting person in the factory. Even though we have a person older than her, she's the longest sitting person with us. But so I met the whole family that day, and that's when they kind of understood, like, because Pepin went back and said, "Oh, there's this kid with tattoos that wants to make cigars with us, and he seems like a nice guy, and he's going to be a good client." And they're like, "Yeah, but Papi has tattoos. Like, tattoos are for people that went to prison. Like because in Cuba, that when they saw people with tattoos, that was instantly like a pre-notion that they would like. Well, he must have gone to prison because that's what we know about people with tattoos in Cuba." So when I walked in the room and they were wondering why I wanted to call my brand Tatuaje, they saw me and they're like, "Okay, yeah, there you go." They saw the arms and they're like, "Okay, we understand it now." But Yanni was the only one that spoke English. The rest of the family, because Yanni was the first person to come from the family to the United States.
Oh, okay.
She came here in 1997 by herself. She worked 3 jobs. Cleaning houses. She worked at a grocery store, a gas station. She worked 3 jobs to save money to get her father some money back in Cuba so he could get to Nicaragua to start working for a factory in Nicaragua.
Nice.
Then eventually they both saved a little bit more money to get the rest of the family into Nicaragua. And once everybody was in Nicaragua, Pepin, Maria, Jaime, and his wife Donnie came up through the borders, and they eventually got here in 2002, the whole family. And it's a big deal. I mean, but my wife, now wife, obviously, was the catalyst to everything. So.
Oh, absolutely. Now, was a love at first sight? I mean, I'm assuming it was because obviously you've been together for so long, but.
Well, okay, so we were both in relationships. We were both married to other people.
Oh, Maro.
So we didn't really have that connection. But you know, as we got to know each other and we started hanging out more, maybe something like clicked somewhere. But it wasn't until both of us ended up like, you know, leaving our previous marriages at the same time, just by chance. We both were having, you know, issues. I was a dumbass, and my marriage was over, but you know, her marriage ended up being a different story. This is kind of personal, but anyways, it wasn't until after that I maybe started looking at her differently, because she was more than just you know, just a woman in front of me. She was like a friend to me. Like, we would talk all the time, so it was easy. I don't know, like that's kind of personal, but it was just easy in the sense that we knew each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that comfort level to embrace a different side.
Yeah, most definitely, and we'll keep it at that, because you know, I already told you before, we don't get, you know, but that's the interviewer in me, you know. I get people opening up.
You almost got me to cry, man. You almost got me to cry.
I know we were talking. Sorry, for everybody out there watching, we were talking before the show, and I said, you know, hey, who knows, I might get you to cry. I almost got some people to cry before, so, but it's all good. So now you
I feel like
guys,
I'm Bob Costas in Jerry Maguire. I'm no, you're Bob Costas. I'm the interviewee that like says, "Hey man, you're not gonna get me to cry."
and you never know. You know, by the end of this interview, you just might. But so at the My Father factory, I actually got to see some pictures. You know, you guys recently like expanded and everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, my brother-in-law during the pandemic, you know, he was the first person to go back to Nicaragua. We all came, like, I was down in Nicaragua with Jaime up until March 14th. And when we got back, it was like, okay, no one's going anywhere, right? The pandemic happened. Eventually, we started figuring out ways to get him back to Nicaragua. You know, the factory needed to open back up. Luckily, he has a great, you know, team of people down there that he can trust, that when he does leave, they can take care of a lot of it. But when he started going back, there were projects, you know, no one knew where the world was going, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we talked about buying another building here in Miami, and then we're like, nah, you know, man, the factories are closed. We're not getting the cigars. This is no time to be buying a building in Miami. God forbid we should have, because that same building is like 3 times the price now. But it was one of those things, like, he just went, you know, he was full steam ahead, and he's like, this is the perfect time for me to renovate the factory, expand the factory, make it even better of a machine than it already is.
Yeah.
He's an engineer. Well, my brother-in-law is kind of like the jack of all trades. He's, you know, he was an agronomist in Cuba, an engineer in Cuba. Like, he kind of knew everything. A lawyer. I mean, like, he's done everything. So when he went back to Nicaragua, he just went full steam ahead. He's like, okay, I'm gonna build this even better the second time.
Yeah.
And it's a massive facility now. It's just really gorgeous. And even back when I started working with them, I was very proud to be able to work with a very clean factory.
Yeah.
And this dates even back to our old days on you know, Calle Ocho and Southwest 8th Street. You know, like, that was a very tiny factory, but it was very, very clean and very tidy and very well organized. So moving forward, when they had the opportunity to do something in Nicaragua, you know, they were very set in making sure that it was very organized and clean. So it made me proud to be able to work with a family that really cared about the facility, and because this is something we put in our mouths, right?
Yep.
So it's super important for me to understand that they go through a lot of safety protocols, I guess. And during the pandemic, he was really obsessed with it. So we were confident we were getting everybody in the factory was safe. but we were also confident we were getting a sanitized product, that not, as much as possible, but everything was, we knew that we were getting clean product. And when you walk through that facility now, you can eat off the floor. It's just, even where all the tobacco's being moved around, it's spotless. And it's not just because when we show up, they clean the floor.
Yeah.
It's like that all the time. So it's really nice to see.
Yeah, I got to see. I was privileged. Joaquin, when he came to our shop a couple months back, he was sitting there showing me like the renovations to the factory and everything, and it's a massive operation. And I was really impressed with. I've seen other factories, pictures of other factories. I've not been, to Nicaragua yet. One day it'll happen, but it's definitely a feat coming from where you started to where everything is now. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I recommend going, dude, because there's nothing like being in a factory, and actually you already appreciate what goes into making a cigar now, because I can tell that you're passionate about this industry, but you will have even more appreciation when you walk in and see the people working and actually have conversations with them. I don't know if you speak Spanish that well, but
no,
at least
but
through
my stepdad's
translation.
Colombian and he's a translator, so I could always just take him with me, be my personal translator.
Dude, so I'm immersed now. I live in Miami full time. I've lived here since 2018 full time. My wife likes to tell me I was living here full time before that, but I just didn't want to let go of my old life, in the sense that I didn't want to leave Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But for me, like, Spanish is still tough for me. Like, but I can, when it comes to tobacco Spanish, it's fairly easy. So I know how to walk into the factories here in Miami or in Nicaragua and talk. I don't really deal directly with Pepin and Jaime most of the time. I deal with the chief of production, because Pepin and Jaime are busy doing other shit. They kind of let me play in their playground, right?
Yeah.
I'm lucky that they allow me to do that, because again, it's not my factory. It's their business. Like, I don't get involved with their business. I try not to, at least. I like to give them opinions on things, but and I'm glad they like my opinion. But when it comes to working at their facilities, I still, don't cross that line of like abusing any power or any privilege that I might have.
Yeah.
I politely, talk with the chief of production, whether it be here in Miami. Like, even the rolling gallery here in Miami, I don't go into that often, because listen, man, I'm not going to tell the rollers how to do their job. They know exactly what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, they're good. I'm just going to get in their way, and I'm going to,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? Like, I go to the guy that's the chief of production. I say, hey, I need this, and he knows exactly what to put together based on the conversation, because that Spanish is actually really good. But I'm not going to go up and talk to the roller and say, hey, you're bunching. Dude, I don't know that shit. That's not my business. Like,
Exactly.
I know how to visually bunch a cigar, but I'm not going to tell their hands to move in a different direction that they have muscle memory doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. Some of these rollers have been rolling cigars for, 30, 40 years. So what am I going to do? Tell them how to do their job? No. Like, I give them their space. In the end, I want a good smoking and good tasting cigar.
Absolutely.
Based on my palate. I tell them what tobaccos I want to use, and they put it together, and that's it.
Absolutely.
It's really that simple. There is other things that get involved in there, but if you have to look at it in the simplest form, that's what I do. I walk in, I talk to this guy, I say, I need this wrapper, these binders, this tobacco. I need you to put, this blend together. And he knows what blends, because there's a book of them that we've accumulated over the last 20 years. And as long as it, tastes good, I'm happy.
Absolutely.
Like,
And I know you're happy. If you're happy, the consumers are happy that enjoy the product. because obviously they wouldn't keep coming back for more.
You know what? For me, every cigar that we make is made for our palate.
That's how it has to start.
If we're happy with it, we put it into production. If we're not happy, we just don't put it into production. That's it. That's as simple as that. The bonus is that other people like our palate. That's it. That's the bonus. Because we don't go into it trying to sell a cigar. We go into it saying we need cigars to smoke, right? The bonus is when people actually like what we're doing, like the blends we put together, and go, I'll buy that cigar. That's the bonus. But we don't go into it with that mentality. We say, I need a new breakfast cigar. I need a new lunch cigar. I need a new midday snack cigar. That's how I look at it. Is like, where can I fill the voids in my life with cigar smoking? And where do I want the next blend to be? Like, do I want it for breakfast? Do I want it with my cup of coffee? Do I want it for lunch? That's why our portfolio is really large, because
you got something for everybody.
You have to have choices. Like, you don't wake up every morning and say, you know what? I eat salad and that's all I eat. No, that sucks, man. Like, you want pizza, you want salad, you want pasta, you want a steak, you want a hamburger, you want chicken tenders, whatever you want. You have to have choices in life. Otherwise, it gets really stale and boring. So, yeah, the bonus is when other people like what we do. So thank you if you do like it.
Hey, no problem. And shouts out to everybody that comes into Smoke Ring 72 and buys Tatuaje and all that, because it does me happy as somebody who is a cigar nerd to see people. Not everybody's at that level, but people are getting there. And getting to know a great product that is consistent and all that. So that always that's what makes me get up and go to work every single day.
We talked about this before we got on, but 2023 is our 20th anniversary, and I still love the fact that people don't know the brand.
Yeah.
On occasion I get the one guy that says, well, I've tasted Tatuajes and they all suck. Okay, that's your opinion. I mean, every one of them sucked for you. Obviously, maybe they're not your style of cigar, right?
Absolutely.
But it's nice to be able to have a conversation with someone that's never tried one and get the questions. Like, it's like almost like I'm time traveling back 20 years ago to that first guy that said, tell me about your cigar. And absolutely. I'm like the worst salesman ever. Like, I can just only tell you the generic stuff. I like what I like, and I don't like what I don't like, right? Like, that's really simple. Like, I'm a love or hate guy when it comes to certain things. If a cigar is just okay, I have no business selling it, right? I have to love it. So every cigar that we put together, if we don't love it, it doesn't get made. So when I meet someone and they say, well, I'm an Opus X smoker, I usually tell them, hey, listen, man, I don't have anything for you, because we don't make Opus X cigars. Like, that's a different animal. We don't, like, I'm a Padron smoker. I'm like, well, we don't make Padrones either. Like, that's Padron. Our job is to make Tatuajes and, ateliers and surrogates, and the Garcias make Don Pepins, and they make My Fathers, and they make Fonsecas. They're not trying to make the next Padron Aniversario. They're not trying to make the next Opus X. That's Fuente's job. Our job is to make a good cigar in what we believe is a good cigar, and in hopes that maybe someone else likes it too, but that's not the first step.
Absolutely. No, I do have to take a quick break and read my other sponsor, give them a shout out. I think this show's going to go long because I have so much stuff in my head as we're talking, and me and you vibe so well. So, I know you got, it won't be till 9:30, but this show's going to be a good one. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Let me just get everything prepared. And I'm going to put you down below, and I got to give a shout out to my sponsor. So real quick. All right. So Herf Zone Live is sponsored by Nomos Cigars, rated 91 in Cigars and Spirits magazine. Nomos is a full-bodied 6x56 cigar that features a rich, full flavor accomplished with a high-quality construction and exclusive aging process. Once the fine cigar is born, it immediately begins our exclusive Nomos Aging Process nap. While each cigar naps, it continues to develop its unique aroma and flavor that sets itself apart from any other cigar the world over. It is a delicious medium smoke resulting from the finely aged Cameroon wrapper and blend of an 8-year-old seco Dominican filler and 5-year-old Nicaragua criollo filler. The Indonesian Sumatran binder finishes the cigar ingredients with the finest quality tobacco available. This exclusive blend provides a beautiful smoke right down to the last nub. Check out nomoscigars.com for info on where to find retailers that carry Nomos cigars. Orders also available on their website. Also follow them on Instagram at Nomos Cigars. All right, and I also, before I continue on with the next topic, my best friend, he loves Tatuaje Especial, the Kappa 7 Especial, and that's like one of his favorite cigars. And I told him I would definitely tell you this story because while I'm live, and so he's kind of dyslexic, so sometimes he gets stuff confused. And so, like a long time ago, he was in another cigar shop that's no longer open in our area, and he was like, "Hey, do you have a cigar? It's called Twat." And then he was like, "Twat? Oh, you mean Tatuaje?" He was like, "Yeah, Twat." And yeah, so
I'll be honest. When I started the brand, everybody, again, if you were a Spanish speaking person, you knew how to say tatuaje.
yeah,
But like when I first wanted to know what the word for tattoo in Spanish was, I had to ask. I was working at a place called the Grand Havana Room. I was the director of retail for
hmm
all their operations for retail around Vegas, DC, New York, and Beverly Hills. And I worked, there's the private club there, and there was a few guys that spoke Spanish that were employees of the club. And I asked them, I said, "What's the Spanish word for tattoo?" And they told me tatuaje. I asked them to spell it for me. Like I didn't know, like because I don't know if you know where I got the nickname. The nickname that I got in the industry very early on, back 30 years ago when I started in this industry, because I was like the only guy with tattoos back then.
yeah,
Literally, when I said the only guy, for like the first couple of years, I was the only person with tattoos that was visibly seen on the floor wearing a sleeve on my arms, right?
yeah.
And then, of course, I met John Huber like a few years later, and we became best friends because we both had tattoos. So that was like, that's why we're still good friends, because we have that bond from the beginning. Everybody called me Tattoo Pete, but it was really the old man, Carlos Sr., that nicknamed me Tattoo Pete.
Yeah, and I've heard
So,
this story, so it's good that my audience is.
because I have an Opus X, you can't see it. It's somewhere back there. I have an Opus X tattoo on the back of my arm. It's fairly big. It's a good size. And I went down to the Dominican Republic, and everybody kind of called me Tattoo a little bit, but it was, we were in factory number 4, no, factory number 3, if I remember correctly. Whatever, I think it was factory 3 that the old man used to work at most of the time. The factory 1, Carlito stayed most of the time over there, if I remember correctly. But we went over to the one that the old man was at, and he goes, "So you're the crazy kid with the Opus X tattoo?" And he goes, "I don't know." He goes, "But okay." He goes, "Tattoo Pete." And it kind of stuck. So like Wayne Suarez, who was Cynthia's husband at the time, I was around him a lot, and Robbie Levin from Ashton and Carlito, they just called me Tattoo Pete. So it stuck. So when it was time to have my own brand, it took me 10 years to actually do it. But I was like, what name really makes sense for me? And of course, tattoo came up. I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense because it is me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it stuck, and that's where the name comes from. But forever people called me Tattoo Pete.
Yeah.
And I kind of grew up in the industry being called Tattoo Pete.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's kind of like me. That's how I can relate, because like I wasn't trying to become known for being shirtless. It just happened. So, oh, I just lost. Looks like he got a phone call. He'll be right back.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I should have turned my shit off, but that's why I should have gotten on the computer. But I got people trying to call me. I apologize to everybody.
It's all good.
The text message don't bother anything, but it's the phone call.
Yeah, it happens.
I guess you've run into this.
That's
right?
why I announced it, so that people would know. But yeah, I can relate to that, because I wasn't trying to get known off of being shirtless. It just kind of happened, and when it did, I just kind of ran with it. It just was like, it separates yourself apart.
Dude, you branded yourself, which is good.
Yep.
Because listen, you have a passion for this industry. You have this podcast that you love doing, and people got to know you as, hey, Shirtless Mike. And you're like, okay, I'll roll with it, because forever, just people would call me Tattoo Pete, and there's people I didn't even know. Now, less and less people call me that name; they just call me Pete Johnson.
Yeah.
So we went back. We were talking earlier. You said superheroes in this industry, and I only mentioned Pepin, but Carlos Sr. was a superhero for me. Rolando Reyes Sr. Was one of those guys also. If anybody knows Rolando Reyes, he was the guy that created Aliados, Cuba Aliados, and Poros Indios. Rolando Reyes Sr. was one of those guys that kind of knew everything, kind of like Pepin.
Yeah.
So I would actually put Rolando Sr. in that masterclass level. He knew his craft like nobody, right? And that's where Pepin is, and that's where Jaime, my brother-in-law, is. Like, Jaime still calls himself Pepin's apprentice, Pepin's son, because Pepin is the maestro and Jaime is the student, right?
Yeah.
But I put Jaime up against any master.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Now, now that we're past the COVID and everything, and now we're back to regular life and everything. You, like, a bunch of other cigar companies have been dealing with back orders and everything. So how have
By the way,
how have you guys been dealing
won.
What's that?
DeSantis won, by the way.
Oh yeah, hey, salute. Yeah, I had to rush getting home because I didn't vote this morning, so I had to rush getting home, and I scarfed down my food before the show. So thank God DeSantis won.
Okay, sorry.
But anyway, so now we're back open. You're back to business as usual. Back to everything. You, like a lot of other companies, have been dealing with back orders and everything. Like, so what's that situation been like? It's probably nonstop, if I can imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so when the pandemic started, factories shut down. We're scared. Everybody's freaking out. Where's the world going? I actually cut orders from the factory completely. I said, listen, I don't need any cigars. If you can get me a few here and there, I'll take them. But for the next couple months, I'm not sure if we're going to even have any business. So when you close, we closed the factory in Nicaragua, I think, for about a month and a half, 2 months. And the factory here in Miami was closed for 3 months. So we lost a whole quarter of the year. We started losing, like, depleting our inventory, our on-stock inventory quickly, because everybody, like, I think it was like 2 weeks in, everybody's like, I need cigars, man. People are like calling me. They're like jonesing for a cigar. I was like, fuck, we got to figure out a way to get open, because people are like asking to get product. Luckily, in our warehouse is based in Los Angeles, and we run a very small ship, a very efficient ship, right? It's like only 3 people there. So, and there's a lot of room to move around without even looking at anybody. So, like, there was no direct contact really. So it was pretty easy to open up without anybody being exposed within 12 feet. Forget about 6 feet. So we got open pretty quick, and we started shipping clients that were like hounding us for product. None of us expected to have the growth levels that we did during the pandemic because everybody sat home and smoked cigars. Yeah, I mean, shit. We all did. Like, I smoked more cigars during the pandemic than I have, and like, I was smoking as many cigars as if I was in the factory. Yeah. And when I'm in the factory, I smoke sometimes 15 to 20 cigars in a day because it's just, pop and go, pop and go. But like during the pandemic, I was like, what am I going to do? We would walk in the morning, try to get healthy. And the rest of the day I would smoke and drink. I always said that I was
at least you had that going for you.
I was drinking. But no company, not one company could say that they would ever expect the demand level for people needing to have that one vice. And of course there was like rumors going around that, cigar smokers were like immune to the whole COVID thing. So more important people were like, yeah, that's my excuse. I'm going to keep on smoking because supposedly it helps me keep people away from me anyways, right? Yeah. Well, what did people say originally? Like, we were social distancing because people didn't want to be around us anyways because we were smoking cigars.
Exactly. So, right? I mean, I just stuck with it. Like, no matter if it was true or not, it kept people away that I didn't want near me and just kept it moving. And those who I wanted near me, we just got closer.
So no one expected it. We started catching up, but not enough. And, to lose basically a quarter of the year, it ended up backlogging us a lot. So we're still playing catch up. There are some things that we have that we know we can get clients right away, but we're still on this growth pattern. But we're still sitting with a huge backlog. And sometimes it's not just because delays with containers leaving the factory. It's because, oh shit, we're out of bands. And we need to, like today, dude, I was ordering bands today. And I asked my band maker, I said, hey, do I have any of these bands on order? She goes, no, but I have 15,000 of them sitting here in inventory. I go, send those to Miami now. And I need another 150,000 of them. That will take about 3 to 4 months before I get that other order. So I'm going to run out before that order comes in anyways. So we've run into issues where we're like, oh shit, we forgot to place an order for that band. And now we're sitting about 2 to 3 months before we can get the bands. And we've just missed that whole quarter without shipping that one product. Like, that's really been the biggest delay. We had a box delay for a little bit because my brother-in-law was renovating the box factory in Nicaragua, making it bigger and better. So we ran into a problem where we were a little shy on box, so we had to start shipping bundles to clients. That delayed us a little bit. The containers, we get containers up every week. So cigars are coming. It's not enough to fill the demand.
Yeah, I noticed that with a lot of companies. And see, the thing about boxes, we have a freaking mountain of cigar boxes at our shop that we can't fucking get rid of. So
yeah,
for some companies, we've just reused them. Like LFD is big on that. Padron gives a credit, and all that, and we save them, send them back, and it's that's something that could be reused. It's it's one of those things where we got the boxes anyway. If we got the bundles, it saves. So I mean, I don't personally mind getting it as long as you keep the same SKU as on the box on the bundle, so that we don't fuck things up. But that's my biggest thing.
Just a quick update, real quick. So it's raining down here now, and I'm starting to get splashed a little bit, but I'm going to stay right here. Luckily, I'm undercover here, but I don't know, 2 feet away from me, I'm getting like raindrops coming off of the plants next to me.
Oh, okay. Do you have anywhere to get out of the rain just in case it starts coming even harder? Or?
No, I can just kind of shift this way, and it kind of saves me a little bit. But here, I'll keep on moving. Sorry about the loud noise, everybody. There you go. I'm dry now.
Most definitely. We're glad you're dry and all that. So, but yeah, so that's one of those things. Waiting on boxes and stuff. I know that could be a bitch, but shit. As somebody who works in retail, somebody says bundles, we could save the freaking box.
It's the little things that slowed us down.
Yeah.
The good thing is that the Garcias grow most of everything we use. We buy tobacco for wrappers from a dedicated grower in Connecticut for broadleaf. We buy from the Perez family, ASP, which is the Connecticut Ecuador, which I'm actually smoking a Connecticut Ecuador right now. This is actually an Anarchy wrapped in Connecticut Ecuador. We buy wrappers from Oliva, like the Habano Ecuador and the Sumatra Ecuador. So that Capa Especial that we've had out since 2010, I guess. We've been using their Sumatra since 2010. We buy San Andreas wrapper from the Tarrant family. So we have good partners, like what I would consider some of the best growers in the world for those particular leaves. And then the rest of it, the Garcias grow. So we didn't have a tobacco issue.
Yeah.
That wasn't the issue. The issue was like the hinges for the boxes or the cedar ply to make the boxes that was stuck in China, because the containers never left. Or we never had a cellophane problem either because the Garcias have their own cellophane machine. It was always like little things. Drivers to drive the containers.
Yeah.
From
from
the factory to the port.
Every time.
Little things. Yeah. Nothing you can complain about. You just say, okay, it'll show up next week.
Yeah.
But tobacco, we've never had an issue with it. Production quantities, maybe, because, again, no one expected an increase like that. Sorry, it sounds like I'm probably, pissing right now, but I have a
It's actually not that bad. You can hear it,
okay,
but
good.
It's not terrible. You can hear you clear. You're very clear. So.
Okay, good. Oh, I literally have like a gutter tunnel that lands right in front of me, so it gets pretty loud. But
yeah, it's not bad. The earbuds, man, those things work like a charm for sure.
At least they're canceling some of that noise out, but it's getting harder. So right now there's no wind. I mean, there's a light breeze, but the rain is coming down a little heavier. But yeah, so back to the no one expected the increase. Everybody got delayed, not just us. Everybody that works for the factory got delayed. Every factory got delayed. Every factory ran into the same problems.
Yeah.
We were lucky that we'd never had the tobacco issue. I know some factories ended up having tobacco issues because they had to rely on buying all their tobacco. And there was probably a point in time where relationships mattered and people were cutting in line, I guess. But I'm very fortunate to work with a family that grows, 95% of what we use. So.
Most definitely. One of my loyal viewers, Uncle Larry, he wants to know, once the container is on the ship, how long does it take to hit the U.S. mainland?
It will leave on the factory. It will leave on a Sunday from the factory. It will get to the port in Nicaragua a couple days later, and then it will arrive the next week. So I would say it's about 7 days.
There you have it from the man himself. Now, you actually.
And the good thing that we do, though, is just so everybody knows, the Garcias freeze all the tobacco. So they freeze all the finished product, but any of the tobacco. So we make cigars here in Miami. Obviously, we're not making cigars in Nicaragua, shipping them to Miami and then packing them. We make cigars here in Miami. So they have to send up the raw material. They freeze the raw material that's coming up also. So we haven't had any bug issues with the cigars because, there's nothing worse than opening up your humidor and seeing tobacco beetles.
Oh,
it's like one of the worst feelings ever.
Most definitely. Now, I did want to talk about a little bit. You got your advent calendar. You got the 2021, 2022, and
there's a good delay for you.
And there's a lot of yeah, but there's I've heard of a lot of people, and I've actually had a picture sent to me of what's inside of it and all that. Like, there's been like a lot of controversy about that. So, I mean, is it really as bad as it seems? Like, because I saw you made a post about that, and
nah, you know what it is, man. It's like when we were kids with advent calendars, there were no cell phones, there was no Facebook, there was no social media. No one was on the internet. There was no internet. So no one was out there taking a picture and posting it out there of the different candy that you would get in your advent calendar, right?
Exactly.
So nowadays, with everything's on demand now. So like now, when people, like, even when you go to Costco, they have advent calendars for wine. They have every bottle displayed of what's in the advent calendar. It kind of ruins the excitement. I'm still a kid. Like, I think you've hung out with me one time, but you probably got a vibe that I was still kind of goofy.
Yeah.
And I still love the excitement of opening up that door every morning and seeing what the fuck's behind it. So like, I always tell people, like, hey, listen, man, if someone gave up the secret, just don't pay attention to the post.
Yes. So now this person actually messaged it to me, but I kind of was curious anyway, so it's kind of my fault.
Yeah, a lot of people like opened up the tray completely and showed them where the cigars were in the tray. Like, I posted a picture on our private club that we have, Saints and Sinners. I posted a picture of all, like, I posted a picture of all the cigars that were going to be in the calendar for 2021,
but not the order.
They didn't know where they were. But we made some changes. We went to the factory and actually said, hey, you know what? Move that to 2022 and move this one from 2022 to 2021. So we kind of mixed it up a little bit. There's only 7 repeats. So if you open up 2021 and 2022, you're going to see 7 cigars, regular production cigars, being duplicated. You will see 2. I'll give up the secret a little bit. You will see 2 holiday cigars in every advent calendar. And it's pretty obvious what days I picked for what days they're going to show up on, because you want to start off with a bang and end with a bang, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things where people were posting, like, man, you're ruining the surprise. But that's the world we live in. There's no surprises anymore. Although I found out that I didn't win the Powerball because California delayed it for some safety protocol or security protocol, and somehow some guy in California won. Go figure.
Yeah, I heard about that. About it being delayed.
Delayed because of safety or security protocols in California. And then actually I read like a post last night that said that means someone in California is going to win, and someone in California won. So that's pretty suspicious.
Exactly. Why can't somebody in Florida win? And you know what's crazy? From what I see, for people that won, you got to go to you can't go to like a high, like a store that everybody goes to. You got to go to like the little like pung ho stores and all that. Like, if you Yeah, if you want to win, you got to go to like the hood, little corner store type spot. Like you got to go there, because a lot of people in my area, maybe not won like the Powerball, but they won, money off of a lot of money off of scratch offs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You got to go to like, there's a store in the hood in the area where I'm from in Cocoa called Pinky's, and a lot of people have hit at Pinky's, and that's like the number one spot where everybody has won. Also, Publix, people for some reason
We
people
have a
have hit
Shell.
the
Yeah, we
Shell
have a Shell
station.
near. We have a Shell station near us that I walked in, and they have like signs all over the wall. $10 million hit here. $5 million hit here. I was like, oh shit, I guess I'm in the right Shell.
Exactly.
I bought 5 tickets, dude. I'm going to take a chance. I can tell you though, based on the line that I was in last night at like 8 p.m., the United States has a serious gambling issue.
Yeah.
No wonder the damn thing was 1.9 billion.
Exactly. And see, I like to gamble too, but I don't really play the lottery. I like to play like, like slot games and stuff like that,
I'm a
because
slot guy. I'm a
you
slot guy
know,
too.
I mean, I'm big on that. Although I just got a new vehicle, so and I don't have the best credit, so I got a big ass car payment, so that's gonna stop for right now, because if I win, if I lose, I'm gonna fucking get pissed. And luckily, because I'm financially irresponsible, I have my mom. She's hanging on to my card, so all I could do is put money in the bank, and then if I need something, I make tips too. So if I need something, gas or different shit like that, I just fucking hustle and get the tips, and I'm good. So until I get to a certain level, but it's just one of those things that sucks. But yeah. Now, are you at liberty to talk about the NFT with that you guys are collaborating on with Smokin, or not? I don't
Well,
need Abe.
yeah,
I don't need Abe.
it's.
He watches the show. I don't need him to like, yo.
I mean, honestly, it's an Abe production for sure. I am very welcome, like very happy to be part of his production, because he's the guy that's taking all the risk. He's doing everything. Like he's really got all the ideas going on with this thing. I'm the lucky guy that gets to produce the cigar. Um, and of course, it's a cigar. Like this cigar is actually a sample of what would be the pale horse, but
Yeah, I've smoked a
I'm
pale horse.
still I'm still kind of torn between the new pale horse, whether or not it's going to be Corojo or Connecticut Ecuador. The blend's done. Like the blend's there. It's just I'm still having a hard time deciding which one I like better.
Yeah,
This is pretty damn good. But the Corojo, I have a soft spot for Corojo right now. Like since the Garcia started growing it years ago, and when I was able to start using it full time, like from their crop, I just fell in love with the flavor profile of it. So like it's kind of stuck in my sense memory. Like it's there, like embedded in my head, that every time I light up something with that wrapper, I'm like I'm in heaven. So I probably don't give the Connecticut Ecuador as much love, but this thing is banging. Like this thing's really like really tasting good.
oh yeah, and I really like Ecuadorian Connecticut rappers. Like, it's
Oh, this
the
is so smooth, and it's really about the palate is like super smooth, but then you get that beautiful spice from the Anarchy blend. So it's really clean on the palate, and then you put it through your nose, and you start getting those pins and needles. It kind of throws you back. Maybe I'll make both. Maybe I'll surprise Abe, and I'm like, here I am surprising Abe. He'll kill me, by the way. Maybe I'll make some extra cigars as a bonus. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's really tough sometimes when you find love for both things. You start having to make choices that you don't want to make, because you really want to have both there to smoke. Maybe I'll just make a bunch extra for me and Abe to smoke, and he can use them to pass out to people. I don't know.
yeah.
We'll
Hey, you
see.
heard it. You heard it first. Hearthstone Live
But
exclusive.
I'm excited. Like again, Abe is a brilliant retailer. Um, he's really the mastermind behind this. the guys from La Flor Dominicana obviously have been very generous with their information to Abe. Lido actually called me and asked me if I needed any help with it. I said, well, I think Tony has already talked to Abe a lot about it. So I think Abe's good on it, but I'm just excited to put the product, the cigar part together and do the humidors. I designed the band. I don't know if you know, but I actually sit at the computer and I do the illustrator artwork for the band before I send it to the band maker, because I kind of have an idea in my head of what I want with it. And it's not crazy elaborate. It's just simple and clean and elegant, but it has like holographic foil on it, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
So I love every part of the cigar. Like, I know, like, my bands are pretty simple in general because it's really about the cigar for me, but I do geek out on sitting at a computer for a long period of time and designing like something a little bit more elaborate. Like my 20th anniversary band is mimics my 10-year anniversary and my 15th year anniversary band, but it's got a lot more going on.
Nice. Now, so do you design all of your bands or not just like certain ones?
I would say about 95, 98% have been designed by me, but there's a lot of times over the years where, like, I'll draw something on a piece of paper and give it to a graphic artist and say, this is what I want. And then I'll stand over their shoulder for a couple hours and move things, like move that, move that 1 millimeter to the left type of thing. Like when I did the La Mission band, it was, Atelier was a collaboration amongst my brother and our buddy Dan from Surrogates and our buddy Sean Casper Johnson, no relation, but it was kind of like this group effort. But Casper's brother Kyle was working with us doing graphics because I didn't have the time to sit at the computer and do it. And Casper's brother Kyle was really good at Photoshop. And my buddy Seth, who worked in the fashion industry, who was working on a clothing brand with me, he was also good at Illustrator. So I literally drew on a small piece of paper like what I wanted for La Mission's band, and they both came up with two different things. And then I took both of their artworks and I morphed them together to come up with the final La Mission band. And of course, it wasn't my ultimate decision. I just kept on sending, clips of that artwork to Casey, Dan, and Casper to look at because it was a group thing. It wasn't just me. Like when we started Atelier originally, we liked to call Tatuaje the solo act, and Atelier was like the band, and I just happened to be the lead singer. Good rock and roll.
It makes sense. I understand that logic.
Yeah.
But let's see here. So we got a Facebook user, but I know who it is because he made another comment. He says, "Why don't you start with making the commish pork chops a limited supply?"
Well, the pork chops are going to come back eventually. Part of the whole like pork tenderloin series, like in the butcher paper.
Yeah.
Because when we did pork tenderloin back in, what was it? 2000, what was that? 2009, 2008? When we did that originally, the whole butcher paper and everything around the bundle, it was kind of like a new thing. And when we're redoing this new version of the pork tenderloin with the San Andreas called the Lomo de Cerdo, I decided that I was going to eventually bring back the pork chop with San Andreas also. And we're going to put it in that same bundle format that the Lomo de Cerdo or the pork tenderloin is in.
Nice.
All that stuff is like slow down the road.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like next year's the 20th anniversary of Tatuaje, right?
Yeah.
We've said this before, but in the end, I kind of want to die in this industry. Like, there's no end game sellout program for me where, like, I'm going to sell my company and just walk off in the distance and say, screw you to the industry. No, I love this industry. I mean, I wouldn't have produced a documentary about the industry if I didn't absolutely love it, right?
Absolutely. And it was an awesome documentary, and you can and if you haven't seen it, they just put that on YouTube as well if you want to talk about that.
Dude, in like a month and like 10 days, it hit 60,000 views already. So we're excited because, honestly, when the guys first put it out, it wasn't, there was never a moment that I was going to make that documentary and go, oh, I might be able to make money off of this. There was never that thought process. I made it because I believed that the industry needed like the best commercial, for lack of better words, the best commercial ever to help fight against the FDA bullshit that we were dealing with at the time. So technically, the documentary is a little dated because it was like 5 years ago already.
Yeah.
And there's less, at the moment, there's less of an FDA battle, but we can't count on that forever because they're going to keep on coming back, right?
Yep.
Those guys are going to keep on pushing it, so we need to make sure that we keep on pushing our narrative also, right? So I never had that moment. It was like, oh, I'm going to make this documentary and then we're going to sell it and I'm going to make a bunch of money off the documentary. No, that was never even in my thought process. I made it because I wanted to make it. The guys that wrote and directed the film, Jesse and Steve, they put it out on Amazon Prime and Google Play and Apple Play, in hopes to maybe recoup a little bit of the money. But in the end, it was just really, most of the money came from my checks that I was writing. We had a few companies that were willing to donate to the film. So luckily we got contributions from people like Fuente and my father and Padron and Ashton. So we got a lot of good supporters behind the documentary. But when the guys came to me and said, hey, it's going to turn 5 years soon, we're thinking about putting it on YouTube so we can get more views and put it out for free, I said, awesome. Because that's the more people that see it, the more they'll appreciate the documentary, and the more they'll appreciate the industry.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal with that documentary from the guys was to make sure that they produced something that when anybody watched it, they would never associate. And I'm saying anybody. It could be a non-cigar smoker.
Yeah.
They would never associate cigars with cigarettes ever again.
Yeah.
And that was
big
the ultimate
tobacco,
goal.
because it's not big tobacco whatsoever.
So I love doing it. And every time they would bring me footage, I would write them another check. But it was because I loved telling the story. Originally, I didn't even want to be in it. Like I was like, I watched like a 2.5 hour, actually, it was like a 3.5 hour version of it, which is way too long, by the way. But a lot of good information. I kept on saying, yeah, cut out that part with me. I don't think you need to use me as much.
Yeah.
And they actually said, listen, we interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of people just didn't say anything good. Like they didn't, like their interviews weren't good. Like they couldn't use the footage because they didn't really say anything. And out of what was said, they said, they told me, they said, a lot of the stuff that you said made complete sense. And it was easy for people to understand. So we had to leave it in. I was like, well, yeah. I don't like seeing myself on camera.
I'm the same way. And the funny thing is, I have a video podcast. And I'll probably go back and listen to this interview because this is, one of the big ones for me for the show and everything. But other interviews, like, I just felt like, just listening to it, it's a clusterfuck. I'm sure you feel the same way.
No, we're a little bit all over the place, but that's how I am anyways, because I got
Yeah, that's how I am too.
I
I've
see a
got
squirrel and I'm like, oh, there's a squirrel. Like the raindrops are coming down. That's bothering me, right?
yeah.
I'm all over the place. I actually like to go back and watch them too. And my wife laughs. She goes, "You're like my dad. You like to watch interviews of yourself." I go, "I want to see if I said anything that was insulting to anybody.
Yeah, I know
I
in the
want to see if
beginning of
I
this
fucked up
interview
and said something."
I pronounced Yanni's name wrong, so I do apologize to her. And then when
I
I
can't remember what
remembered,
you said. Did you say Janny?
yeah, I said Janny.
Yeah, but everybody does that because it
Yeah,
is
but
spelled
see,
Janny.
the thing is, I know better. So when you said her name again, I was like, oh yeah, that's not how you pronounce it, and I know better. I know that, because it's
Listen,
just one
man,
of those things.
people that work for my wife actually still call her Janny because it's kind of an odd it's an odd name because it's in Spanish it would be Johnny or I've actually heard a lot of people call her Hani because the J is silent, right? Kind of like
Yeah,
Jaime
yeah,
or our nephew Handi. Everybody in the family has J's like Jacob, Joseph, Joshua, Jeremy, Justin, Jade. Everybody's got a Jade. Jaime, Yanni, Jose. So there's a lot of J's, and there's really close friends of ours that call her Hani because that's how they pronounce the J. So, and again, there's really close friends of ours that call her Janny. So I just
well,
call her
I
Yanni
guess it wasn't
because
as bad as I thought. I knew better. That's cool.
I like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be like an impersonator. I loved, I don't know if you remember this guy, Rich Little. You ever
I
hear
heard
of
the
him?
name. Can't really
He was like
picture.
he was a big impersonator. So when I was, when you only had TV in front of you, I used to mimic people all the time. So if I get around someone and I'm hearing their voice a lot and they have like the similar tone that I have, I can actually sometimes mimic their voice pretty well because I wanted to do it when I was a kid. So when I heard her mother say Yanni and her brother say Yanni, I instantly picked up that's how I say it. And so like when I hear people say Janny, I don't think about it, but I'm like, oh, it's kind of awkward for me because I don't hear that often. But I do hear it.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, we're a little bit past the hour. If there's anything else that you want to
Sorry, man.
bring up,
I'm a
promote.
talker.
No. These are my favorite type of interviews. It's a lot of fun. Oh, one thing I did want to bring up. Like I said, I had so much to talk about that it's just, whatever we get to, we get to. Whatever we don't, we don't. It's a lot of fun anyway. But
Sure.
yeah. So my manager Angelo, he wanted to know if you're gonna come out with something that's actually strong. Now, I know you have some stronger stuff, but he's one of those guys that's like nothing
Has
is
he
strong
smoked
enough.
Fausto?
Huh?
Has he smoked Fausto?
I'm not sure if he has. I mean, that's pretty decently strong, but even strong cigars for him, like, and we
Yeah.
rarely agree on cigars. So
So Fausto on paper is the strongest cigar we have. Kohonu would be the one directly below it.
yeah, he even says the Kohonu. He even
It's
says that's
mild.
not that strong.
See, here's the key though. Um, we can make a strong cigar for the sake of being strong, but we want a cigar that's strong but balanced.
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely.
it fools you into thinking that it's milder than it is. Like I remember when I first gave the Kohonu blend to, I had some regulars at the Grand Havana room that would come and see me and say, "Hey, let me try that new thing you're coming out with." And I would give them a Kohonu 03. I said, "Listen, man, you might want to have some food in your stomach before you smoke it." And they're like, "No." And they were smoking. They're like, "Oh, this is actually pretty mild." I actually caught a kid puking in a planter outside the Grand Havana room one day because he, he's like, "Oh yeah, this is mild." And he was a coffee guy. Like he was a big coffee guy. He actually worked at a coffee place. And he goes, "Yeah, this is really mild. Actually, it's actually really good." And I go, "Well, just be prepared. It's going to hit your stomach like a brick." And he excused himself. I turned over my shoulder and I looked. He was out in the planter puking. I'm like, okay, it's not that strong, but it will get to you if you're not ready for it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, he's the type of guy. Angelo's the type of guy that he wakes up and smokes like an LFD for breakfast, like before even eating anything.
Okay, so Dan Welsh. Some of the Surrogates blends that we do are super strong. I
Yeah,
would
like
put
the
them
Bone
up there.
Crusher.
Bone Crusher and Skullbreaker, I would put those up there with Fausto. Maybe even at the peak of the strength level. Animal Cracker, AC 550, Cracker Chrome. I would put those up there in those strength levels, like Fausto. And he wakes up and smokes a Skullbreaker for breakfast. Not even for breakfast. That's his breakfast with a cup of coffee. And I think he uses it as a diuretic, though.
I mean, that's essentially, if I have a strong cigar, that means I had too much cheese, so I need a strong cigar and some strong coffee, and I need to get that cheese out of me, so it's a lot easier to get out of me.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll have to, because we don't, we only carry a limited amount of Tatuaje, which I'm glad we've expanded that. Now we actually got more shelf space. Who knows in the future?
Listen, if he wants to, if one day I'll put a couple cigars together. That when you start burning the cigar, and we try to, the key is to make a cigar balanced, no matter what. You want to be able to enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with that.
You don't want it to be like completely just pure strength for the sake of being strong. You want to have some balance to it, otherwise it's kind of useless to smoke. But I will put together a cigar that you'll actually see the smoke burn blue. Like you'll see the smoke, it's blue, and that's like a motherfucker. But it will be clean on the palate.
Yeah,
but it will hit his stomach like a brick.
If it gets his approval, then that's saying something, because that's hard to do. I mean, the cigar that we really both agree on as of lately is the Room 101 13th anniversary. That cigar is great, and there was one day we were both smoking it at the exact same time. It's just, I copied him though, because he was there all day, and then I just got in. I was like, oh, let me smoke this today. Start off the shift.
Yeah, man. I've smoked cigars over the last 30 years that sometimes if I'm not ready for them, they'll get me. And it could be just because I didn't have any food in my stomach since like lunch the day before. And I have a cigar that we make here in Miami that I call the Kohonu 2003 Series L. It's for Loki. It's a 4x50. And I'll sit in Jose Ortega's office here at the Miami office and smoke that cigar with just having some Cuban coffee in my system. And he'll look at me, he's like, you okay? I'm like, dude, this cigar gets me every time. Every time, because it really just packs a punch. And it's not that it packs a punch here, it packs a punch here, and it goes down the system, and then eventually comes back up to your head, and you're like, wow, I'm a little dizzy. So that one, because it's so concentrated in a small format, that can get you.
Oh yeah, cigars don't really get me too much anymore. Like, and I'm not somebody that needs a certain strength level. I smoke every single strength level there is. It just depends on the time of the day. But you got some people that are just picky. Which I call Angelo picky palate. But yeah. So before we get out of here, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up that I might have, that's important that I might have forgot? Because I try to keep the interview not even like interview like, because I'm sure you ask same, you answer the same 150 questions on most interviews. I try to make it my show unique, so if there's anything I've missed.
I'll be honest, man, I like just getting on shows like this and podcasts and Zoom, Herfs, whatever, and just shooting the shit. So like I could talk about a new cigar we're coming out with, but I'll let everybody know when we start to put it out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously people, they follow Coop, they follow Half Wheel. That news is coming out and it gives the explanations. I like to see, for my show, I like to see, just let the guests talk. Not ask the same questions. I've definitely over the last 2 years, I've definitely grown in that. So hopefully, you've had a good time on the show. And
dude, I had a great time, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the fact that you take your private time to do this for the industry, because I think right now the culture is really strong, and I love the fact that people are embracing it more and more. I even do it like we laugh all the time because we know a bunch of comedians that smoke cigars. Like they're like kids. They're like new to the whole thing, and they're just learning about this thing, but they geek out about it, and they geek out about it on podcasts that hit like 1 million people.
yeah,
So
Joe
I love it.
Rogan
Joe
and other
Rogan,
people.
Bert Kreischer, Bobby Kelly. I love hearing their enthusiasm
Yeah,
about cigars because it only benefits the culture.
exactly. And I want to meet
And
Bert Kreischer because he's another shirtless guy. I gotta.
dude, I freaking love Bert Kreischer. I've never met him myself either. He smokes a lot of Tatuajes and a lot of my father's, but never met him in person. I just want to thank him for being kind of a cigar nerd, because
Yeah,
I'm the original cigar geek, dude. I was the guy that would follow every cigar manufacturer around at the trade show and just ask questions, because I was the sponge that wanted to suck up everything, right?
hmm
And I love hearing the enthusiasm in people's voices when they're trying a new cigar. Like, have you tried this? Like, you got to try this. I'm like, this is like the enthusiasm that everybody should have about every cigar they put in their mouth. And
exactly.
do we make a great cigar every day of the week? Some days you have a bad roller, or the roller like is having a bad day, and the cigar might be bad. So it's not a perfect science. This is a handmade product, right?
hmm
We strive to make a great cigar every time, but it doesn't work out that way. We don't have full control over it because we're not the people actually sitting at the table putting it together.
hmm
Um, but when I get that perfect cigar, and when I hear people getting those perfect cigars, and they get excited about it, I love that. But the moment, and Pepin is very much, I have to say that I'm more like Pepin because he's older than me, and I have to respect my elder. But when we hear that someone had a bad experience with one of our cigars, it's like devastating,
Yeah,
because we set out to make a good cigar, and when someone didn't like it, that hurts. That hurts a little bit, because you really thought you were doing something right, and when someone said that you did it wrong, okay, that sucks. So
yeah, it happens, and it's one of those. It's a handmade product, and that's why a good retailer. If you go to a retailer and and you're getting a bad draw or something happens, we replace it. We just take another one out of the system and replace it. Some companies will, give a, replace those for us. Some don't, but either way, we keep a happy customer, and it starts from that level on up, and it's all the circle of life. We all work together.
dude, a lot of people don't know this, but like, I'm in control of both Tatuaje Cigars and Tatuaje Inc. on Instagram.
Yeah,
So I handle both accounts.
yeah,
I also handle 3 email addresses that have Tatuaje Cigars associated with it. Every like question about the product, I might respond as just Tatuaje, but it's me responding.
yeah.
And when I get that occasional, rare occasion of an email of someone complaining about the product, and thankfully it's rare, I want to fix it, because that's my nature. Like, I don't want to, like, this sounds kind of trivial, but I want the product to be liked. I want to be liked. You know what I mean?
hmm
kind of odd to say, but like I
We
want
all have
people
that inherently in us. Like there's people that hate me, and I could give two shits, but deep down inside, it's like you want everybody to like you, but we all
yeah,
have
it's
that.
just part of your nature. And when someone has a bad experience, I want to make sure that I take care of it and figure something out, whether I direct them back to the retailer that they bought it from, or try to figure it out on my end alone. But I try to take care of shit because I want people to have a good experience with this shit, because it does cost money.
Yep.
And it's hard-earned money that everybody's needs. The fact that they're taking the time to have a luxury product in their life, because this is a luxury product. I mean, most cigars are anywhere from $8 to whatever, per cigar, $8 to $20 a cigar. It's a luxury item, and when someone has a bad experience with a luxury item, you got to do your best to make them understand your product a little bit more, and at least ask for a second chance, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Sweet. Well, before we get out of here, my buddy Eric, he works with me. He says, "Forget Angelo, your cigars are awesome, but let's go thermonuclear."
Oh yeah, so there you go. He knows thermonuclear.
Yeah,
That's old
he's
school.
like he's big into Tatuaje. Like I smoke Tatuaje, but you guys have so many cigars. I guarantee I haven't smoked all of them. But whenever I get something that I haven't smoked, somewhere, like I always try it. But
So
like
the
him and
only
his
guy
brother are
I
like
know,
definition of tat horse.
the only guy I know that, okay, there might be a few guys that have smoked everything, but the two guys that I know have smoked everything has to be myself and Dan Welsh, who is surrogates Dan. Dan is a smoker, and he's a cigar smoker, and he loves tasting every range from mild to strong, from $2 all the way up to $65. We always say that we have a seat for every ass and a price point for every wallet. So if people are willing to try the product, we'll try to guide you in the right direction based on your wallet and based on your palate. So
Exactly, that's the way it should be, brother. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you for coming on the show. You're definitely gonna be a regular guest because we got
I
that type
love
of
it, dude.
chemistry
Yeah,
that next year for the 20th anniversary we'll get you on and all that good stuff. But if this is your first time watching, make sure you go subscribe on YouTube and all that good stuff. Share the show, let people know about Herf Zone Live and all that good stuff. And Pete, I will let you know when we're not live so we can talk that.